Next up, we have making a telemetry connection between the Dragonlink RC and the flight controller. If we come in here to the DragonlinkRC.com page and go to our instructions, we'll go here. That's the system I have. We can scroll down on this now, and we will be talking about this section. Here, this does actually show a picture of my receiver. Might should have shown that yesterday. If we scroll down, there's 3 possible different hardware configurations that will require different wiring and settings. Choose from the list below. Well, first of all, this picture does match my receiver, and I do have a 6-pin connector right here. So I will be using the 6-pin UEXP cable, not the 5-pin down here, so this one's tossed out. And I do have a flight controller that has clear to send and request to send, so this one is knocked out by that. And so we're at the top here, and it says just to proceed below. So down here it details connect the black Dragonlink ground wire to the telemetry ground on your flight controller. Click connect the blue serial in to the transmit on your flight controller. Connect the white to the receiver on your flight controller. Connect the request to send on your flight controller. Oops, I missed one. Connect the clear to send to the clear to send on your flight controller. And do not connect the red wire. Right here, do not connect the red wire. We're already connecting this to the flight controller voltage via a pin out here on these connectors. Center pin. You can't do that 2 places. You can frequently connect ground multiple places, but not voltage. Sometimes you can get in trouble connecting ground multiple places, but we won't get that deep into everything right now. So, if we look at this connector, excuse me, and I also have the flight controller here. We'll be using UART 7, serial port 7, USB 7, whatever you want to call it. We'll be using ground. Again, we will not connect the 5 volts because we're connected right here on these 3 pins, ground, 5 volts, and ppm right now. We do not want 2 sources of voltage connected. That never works out for you. So ground, skip the voltage, receive, transmit, request to send, clear to send. So if we look here again, this tells you everything we need to do. Let's see, request to send there. Green request to send goes to request to send. Okay, that is correct. Clear to send. Yep. So, using this and using this through here, I have made up a wiring diagram, which I will show you right now. The connectors I'm going to use, and then the wiring diagram. And here it is, just one I cut off. Remember, I'm cutting them in half. This is the red that I'm not going to use. I've kind of got it bent back, but you can see again my color scheme is black, red, yellow, blue, green, white. I've also got a wiring diagram right here. Black, red, yellow, blue, green, white to match this connector on this side. On the receiver side, I'll show you this again on the screen in a second. We're going to be using this connector on the right. This wire came with the receiver. That's cool. It's approximately 2 feet long. It has a 6-pin connector for this connector right here. We'll just snap it right in there. Oops. If we turn it correctly, we will. There it is, snapped in. And it's nice they give you a nice long wire like that. I'm going to use all of it. I'll cut it off later when I make up something specifically for an airplane. But I'm going to leave it long right now. So on that side, we have, if it'll focus, black, green, yellow, white, blue, red, from right to left. And on my wiring sheet here, I have black, green, yellow, white, blue, red across the top. And then I have the way it should be wired. And this is my wiring diagram in Microsoft Word. Again, this is a 765 wing flight controller down here, receiver up here. This is the right to left layout of the pins on both sides. So I'm using a 6-pin DuPont connector on the flight controller here that I've been using since day one on these things. And I'm using the connector that came with the RC receiver up here on the top. There will be no connection on red on either side. Ground to ground. Green is request to send to request to send. Yellow is clear to send to clear to send. Not too sure about that. I'm not sure those shouldn't be crossed, but maybe they're lying to us about what's actually coming out of the receiver and just telling us what we need to do. That happens sometimes too. If it doesn't work the way we like it, we'll just take these out of the DuPont connector, flip them over later. But we're going to wire it the way they tell us to first and see if that works for us. The white, which is the transmit out of the Dragonlink receiver, goes to receive on the flight controller, and the blue, which is receive on the Dragonlink receiver, goes to blue, which is transmit on the flight controller. Those two are crossed. Doesn't show it in this diagram because of the way they are set up. Transmit, receive, receive, transmit on the two boards. Okay, let's solder it all together. And there's my cable. I've got this side for the flight controller. I just clipped off that red right outside the DuPont connector so I could leave the pin in, just so friction on 6 pins holds it better than friction on 5 pins. And there's my connections behind the shrink tubing, and then the other end plugs into the flight controller. Oops, the receiver, not the flight controller. So we'll plug this in right here. And then we'll plug this in into the UART7 on the F765 wing. And we'll plug back in our PPM to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 over here. Anyway, we'll plug that in and make sure that works. That'll be just basically for power right now. This is going to be really hard to see, but there it is, plugged into the UART7 on the 765 wing. I know you can't see that well. I'm sorry about that. We've seen that enough time and time again. Then the wire comes down to the receiver, and it's plugged into that port. And on the other side, we have exactly what we had last night for the control link. The
ground voltage and ppm coming into channel 2 here. This is not 7, it is 2. Don't know yet. Don't want to get deep into this. I think this connector can also be used to bring in ppm and stuff, but that's some advanced topics. So real quick, we'll just power it up. Looks like everything is cool. And now I think I have some software configuration to do. I slid the equipment tray out of the Skyhunter so we can see this better. So right here on UART 7 is that 6-pin connector with number 2, the red wire, removed. And then right in front of it is just a little 3-pin that I'm using for the RCN right there. And the compass would go between these two. It's not connected right now. All the rest of these are just extensions I use in the Skyhunter, including the USB extension, which by the way has been working out outstandingly. When I got this out, I may hit that right there with some hot glue, make it a permanent fixture. So the one big long cable I made up goes way over here to the receiver and attaches to that right connector right there. And on RC2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out here on the right. Right here on RC2, I have that. It's going through, like I say, a regular lead to the RCN on the 765 wing. And that's basically the whole shooting match. So now we need to configure that receiver. We need to configure the transmitter. Then we need to configure Mission Planner.
So let's open the graphical user interface. Surprise, surprise. I stepped back a firmware version. I spent a day and a half in the weeds on this, trying to use that most up-to-date firmware from the start. At this point, I really don't recommend you flash the firmware out of the box first like everybody else recommends. I'm changing my recommendation. Wait until you get it all set up. Wait until you get it learned at least one time, because when I stepped back to this version of the firmware where I could use this graphical user interface, I got a whole lot further, a whole lot faster. Number one, because this matches up with what documentation there is. And we're going to go right back into this document, which is the underneath the main radio instructions is the radio modem and telemetry setup. We've got a few other places we'll go, but so that's about all I'll say about this graphical user interface. Is noobs should stay here. Noobs shouldn't go for that new software. I may have to go for that software, but we'll talk about them in this video when I get to it. There's a little, works a lot like Crossfire. Anyway, we're going to go back to this page, and we had been working down it. We jumped over configuring the transmitter, whatever, to the wiring portion that starts right here, and then you jump over the software for the receiver, and then come here for the wiring. And we've got our wiring done now. So now we'll go back up. Jeez. This documentation is, by the way, 2018. It does work, in my opinion. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go in. I can't. Can I open image in new tab? My poor old eyes. I'm on a 55-inch monitor, dude. I just can't see it. So we're going to go into this graphical user interface, into the transmitter. And where does it tell us to go first? RF protocol. And I have set it exactly as this chart says, to 9 times speed and range, normal, use bidirectional, 12 channels, high bandwidth, and use narrow band is not checked. Normal, bidirectional, 9 times, 12 channels, high bidirectional bandwidth, and use narrow band is not checked. Then we're here in external connections. This is where we set up the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi. So we're going to have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi set to radio modem expansion connector, to Tyrannus telemetry, baud rate 9600, must not matter. I think I've seen that set to 5600. We'll have to look at that. This may not agree with what the text says. We'll jump out there in a second. We're still using the USB connector on the transmitter for GUI configuration, which is what I'm in right now. So jumping back here, oops, yeah, go to external connectors, radio modem, Tyrannus telemetry, 9600, GUI config, and enable Mavlink decode is not checked. They show it not checked here. And they're saying 9600 there. Let's see what we get out of this thing here. Connect. 9 times speed. Radio telemetry, Tyrannus, safe settings. So it doesn't even tell us anything about the baud rate. Well, it seems like that could go higher. I might have seen it higher. So as far as the receiver's concerned, there's nothing else that matters in here for this, in my humble opinion. RF for this can be changed. You can drop down the speed in favor of range in this direction. I think the new firmware addresses this differently though. Anyway, I did change the input from PPM to S-Bus. Figured I'd try to step up just a little bit in the world. So I have both of them set to S-Bus. And I don't think you can do anything here. So all that is saved. And that will give us our receiver configuration. So now I should switch over. Nope, excuse me. That will give us our transmitter configuration, not the receiver. So I'll unplug the transmitter and plug in the receiver. And now we'll go down to here for the receiver setup. Oops. Oh, I have to plug into the receiver on the other end. Okay. Now we have the receiver plugged in. Sorry about that. Just real quick here, you see I've set channel 2 to S-bus here. So back to our document. For external 1, what do you want to call it? UEXP1. Okay, fine. UXP1 should be not connected and not connected. That's here. Not connected and not connected. Although when you click show pinouts, it doesn't show my particular receiver, but just get over that. On the UXP3 connector, that's the 6-pin connector. We've got ground and voltage in that, and then we have 4 signal pins in it. And right here you can see those are set as serial in, serial out, clear to send, and request to send. Serial in, serial out, clear to send, request to send. Let's see here. Then we go to the radio modem tab on the receiver, select 57600 baud rate, click set baud, click save settings, rebind, all that good stuff. 57600 baud rate. It doesn't say a single thing about this Mavlink decoding, does it? Nope, sure doesn't. I've seen that addressed in some videos and documents. In the day and a half I was in the weeds on this because I was using the other firmware and the other GUI. The most recent videos on this stuff is over a year ago. And they don't really address, I mean, there's only 1 or 2 of them out, and all the ones before that are from 2018 and earlier, and do not directly address any of this at all. And I haven't even got up into that new firmware yet. It's completely undocumented that I can find so far. So stepping back to this did help me. So that's the way our receiver is set up. Right now, you can do a check. And what I'm going to do here is I am going to unplug the receiver. So we're going to go back here real quick. Yeah, I'm going to have to unplug it from here real quick. And before we do anything else, as it says, well, I guess you could configure all the software before you connect up the stuff. And I guess you could, yeah, I guess we should go in this order. I'm doing this a little differently because of the way stuff is on the bench here. Sorry about this. You can click in status here. Settings, radio modem. Yeah, get status right here. And if you see packets moving right here, this number going up when you click status, you pretty much got it working. We'll plug in to the USB on the 765 wing, come into Mission Planner, connect with the USB cable, and now we're heading for the configuration of our Pilot and Mission Planner. Full perimeter list, that's what I use. BRD. This perimeter is to enable the clear to send and request to send pins that we assigned here. board serial request to send, clear to send equal 1. BRD, BRD, ACR1, RTS, CTS. I want it set to 1. I found it also works at the default auto, but we're going to do as best we can what they say. Serial 1 is going to be protocol 1 and 57600 baud. SERIL1. Oops, I hit 2. Serial 1, 57600 baud. I've got it set to 2 for Mavlink 2. Real quick, I'm going to set it to what they say to set it to and write that parameter. All the other ones I think I have changed, and I think I was playing with this one, just leaving it at the defaults. And I was getting like a 70% connection. I wasn't getting 100% connection. I could be a usable connection if it'll go 5 or 6 miles. We'll get into that when I demonstrate the link. Unless it quits working by setting this to a 1, because I did have occasions where it didn't work. So serial protocol 1, baud 57600. So then we're going to go into the SR1 underscore parameter list. So all we have to do is SR1. And here they are. This has to do with the sensor rates. So let's see if I can put these up a little bit side by side so we can look at them. So we're going to start with ext stat 2. Says make it a 1. I guess I will do. I thought I had done this already, but extra 1, extra 2, extra 3, 5, 5, 1, extra 1, 2, and 3. Going up on that. 5. Going up on that one. 5. Going down in hertz on this one. 1. Right. I just have a bad habit of some things, like hard resets, unplugging the USB and plugging it back in and writing out parameters. SR1 params 10. Okay, that one stays the way it was. Oops, did I miss that one? I think I did. No, 551. Missed 2. 5 tab 1 tab right. Why? Be 68 in 2 days. Going on 90. Params 10, and then we have position, raw control, raw senses, and RC channels. Position, raw control, raw senses, RC channels for a 3111. So you want to raise that to 3 hertz. Damn, short memory. 111. Not going to change that one. I'm going to drop these. 1. This might help the speed I saw earlier. Okay. Click the right parameters box on the right. Yeah, you can do that after you change them all. I'm just real bad. As soon as I change them and hit tab, it's just easy for me to write them. I've had occasions where I didn't get them written. Anyway, we're going to go into Wi-Fi in Windows 10. And it is on. And be able to give the Dragonlink. We're on 1.1 right here. Let's see. Come in here for TCP/IP, here's where we have to use that 192.168.1.1. And in the documentation, if I could get connected right now, I had to disconnect from the Ethernet to be able to free up 1.1. And socket 14550. You can see down here my link quality looks pitifully like, there we go. There at first it looked pitifully like Crossfire, and it's looking an awful lot like Crossfire right now. I'll address this in a minute. But it's technically reading in parameters, and it's already read in and transferred a lot of information. This is the correct battery voltage right now. There's no GPS hooked to it, so it's never going to get SATs. If I rock the platform around, you can see that the accelerometers and stuff are working. Everything's pretty much working. But again, I got a link quality that well, 93 would be great. So setting that parameter for use clear to send, request to send, changing it from auto, the default, to a 1 does seem to have helped a little, as it was hovering around 70 link quality. Well, if there was a GPS hooked to it right now, I do believe it would lock up, be ready to fly. Now, I'd have no idea what the range of this would be. See, there's the link quality down in the 70s, 75. Like I say, it looks a lot like Crossfire to me. So I will be testing both the Crossfire and the Dragonlink. And again, here I am BSing, trying to let the software do its thing, because this window will go away. It will succeed here. Matter of fact, I've seen documentation that says after a certain period of time or something, you can click cancel. I don't want to do that. But I do want to get to this status of the link up here that I've used before with the Crossfire, and I can't get to that right now. There we go. It went away on its own. And now I can get to the status up here. Looks like I have a Mavlink 1 connection. I could go back and change that protocol and get a Mavlink 2 connection and see if that's better. I do have lost packets. 97% quality. This looks a lot like a Crossfire connection. 1.39, 1.41 kbytes per second. We saw that in the 1.5 to 1.7 range, so nothing new. So let's see. I am connected. Let's see if we can go into parameters here. And what was the one I was looking for was, oops, I have to click in the search box over here. 01 protocol. I'm going to change it from 1 to a 2 and go for Mavlink 2. This is not what the documentation says to do. I'm going out on my own right now. We'll disconnect. I do have to go cycle the power on the combined flight controller / RC receiver. It is now cycled. And we'll see what happens if we go with Mavlink 2. And these defaults will stay in there once you get them in. Link quality down here. 97. Staying in the 90s. It could stay in the 90s and be 20 miles away for all I know at this point.
Crossfire could stay in the 70s and be 20 miles away for all I know at this point. I had a person in the past couple of days comment that he has physically tested it and it didn't go 50 meters, which is what I am suspicious of, but I have no proof at this point. I've got to get out there flying. There we go. We've read in all the parameters. We go back to stats. You see now we do have a Mavlink 2 connection. The transfer rate's just a little bad right now. We're coming up here. Looks like these are 6.5 dozen the other. And the link quality's back down in the 70s like the Crossfire. It's up to 82 now. Again, this could be caused by the receiver sitting within 3 feet over there of a big metal tool thing that I use for putting parts in and some tools in it. It's 5 feet tall. There's all sorts of stuff in here. Metal heating ducts, etc., etc. So, now that I have this working after this fashion, I'm going to try to step back up to that other firmware. Okay, I'm just going to hit this real quick. I did reflash the transmitter and receiver with the 20, what is it? The 2021 7/16 2021 firmware, and started using this GUI. I will do another video on the backflips I had to do to get that working after a fashion. Let's see if it'll do the same thing here again. I did get a connection a second ago and it ran almost all the parameters in and then it just quit. Make sure I'm still connected to the Wi-Fi. Yep, Dragonlink, sure am. And now the connection's failing. So let's just stick with the version of the software right now that uses this GUI. Okay, we'll just go up on the site and settle this. If you come in here for this system, come in here for the main systems. This version of the software, 17 November 2020, does work, and that's what 9/10 of this video was about, although it's not flight tested or even tested outside of this current environment. This beta test from 16 July 2021, I can't get it to work. So I will be flying it on this to test how this works, what the range is and functionality. And then I will be at the same time trying to get this working. Because when you come into here, this talks about it's a leap forward in telemetry, especially. Next generation firmware has been test flown in demanding conditions and is a major improvement in RC and telemetry range, as well as resistance to interference. Okay, I might go back. I'm going to do a second video on this because the setup was different. I'm reading this again. Maybe I should have done just a little bit different. So that'll be the next video.
So this is the end of Dragonlink telemetry. I did get it working. Sort of like Crossfire. But we have to range test both of those. All right. Thank you.